Years ago, The City and the Pillar changed my life, saved my life. Then you changed The City and the Pillar. Are you inclined, and for reasons that you have explained elsewhere, are you inclined to change any of your other writings?
Could you repeat the question?
He said that The City and the Pillar, which I published in 1948, had changed his life because it was a realistic, first sort of realistic story of two normal all-American boys who have a love affair, and then one wants to continue and the other gets married and forgets about it. And it ends rather tragically first time around, and I thought, well, I'll redo the tragic ending when I was doing a later edition. He now asked me, am I going to do this with any other books? No, thank you.
The initiative process in California, what do you think about it?
What was the question for outside?
The initiative process in California, what do I think of it? Well, admiration is not a word that springs to my lips. And then it's pretty fascinating just semantically to see how language can be so twisted that you are voting really for something that is opposite to what you want. And I mean, it's not that they're good at double negatives, they have quadruple negatives in there. Do you not think that that is not done? That will not be done. Neither will that. You know, your head is reeling. I mean, it was meant to extend the democracy. And I think that's always a good thing. I think if more straightforward people were to use it, and far less advertising agencies or politicians on the make, well, it's redundant. But let's say the theory of it is fine, the practice is not. Well, practice can be made perfect.
I wonder if you could speak about what it was about Aaron Burr that served as a kind of entree into your writing about the early years of the Republic in the first of your American chronicles.
Why I picked Aaron Burr is to begin what I call, actually I don't call them chronicles, I call Narratives of Empire is my working title for the series. Burr was so intelligent, and the others were very stagey. Washington was a very great man, and without him I don't think we would have ever won the so-called revolution. Hamilton was a pretty dreadful man who was a great economist. And the others all had, and Madison was a marvelous lawyer, thinker. Burr alone was the voice sort of saying, no. It doesn't work like that. And they were always posturing for posterity. And he found them very funny. He was a satirist, I guess. That is why I was drawn to him. He found them kind of funny. And they didn't find that at all funny. There was a great, rather witty senator called Gouverneur Morris, New York State. He was in the first Congress. And George Washington would have these royal levees in which he and Lady Washington, as she was always addressed, they would stand at the center of the room, and then all the notables would come around and bow and curtsy and so on. So a couple of senators, knowing Gouverneur Morris's sense of humor, said, we're making up a little pot here. We've got about $10 or whatever the currency they were using that moment. And we're willing to bet a whole pot, we've got about $15, that you will not dare go over and put your hand on President Washington's shoulder. Gouverneur Morris said, of course I will. So Gouverneur Morris went over, and the president is 6'4", and standing in icy command, already anticipating Mount Rushmore. These guys know. They know. They tell them at birth, you know. You're going to be carved out of that Dakota cliff. So Gouverneur Morris went over and put his hand on George Washington's shoulder. And Morris was rather small and Washington was very tall. And Washington stared straight ahead, just as he does at Mount Rushmore. Gouverneur Morris went back to the senators. He said, well, I want my money, I collected. They said, yeah, you did it. What was it like? He said, well, it's nothing I'll ever repeat.
There is an obvious follow-up question, Gore. The obvious parallel to this is the claim that Laura Bush patted Prince Charles on the bum.
Vile, vile.
This was apparently headlines in the British press over the weekend.
Oh, they'll print anything. Poor Laura.
Charles.
Hillary, poor Charles.
Have you read any good books lately?
Have I read any good books lately? Yeah, there's a very nice one. I mean, it's a journalistic thing, but it's called Fooled Again. It's about the recent election of 2004. It's a guy out in Chicago, Miller, something. It's got 3 names, and it's rather like Conyers' report to the nation, and eventually to Congress on what went wrong out there. But it's nice to get it all down, all together, for future impeachment proceedings.
Mr. Vidal,
Yes.
Paul Bowles wrote, what a wonderful mimic you are, and I think we saw a lot of that tonight, but he said that you often put it to wicked use at Truman Capote's expense for some good fun. I wonder if that's true.
No, it isn't.
Can you repeat the question for the outside?
Yeah, that's punishment. Repeated every word.
The question was, Paul Bowles commented what a wonderful mimic Mr. Vidal was, and that he often played tricks at Truman Capote's expense by imitating Capote to maybe Tennessee Williams, and sort of causing trouble for Mr. Capote. So in this revisiting of Truman Capote's career, I wonder what you think.
But can we do it over the mic so we'll have a précis? Can Gore give a précis of the question from the outside?
Well, what happened was, no, I did not set out to make trouble, but I sometimes would ring. Oh, I only do that with politicians. I mean, mere writers. And Truman was making enough trouble for everybody anyway. I mean, he was indeed a pathological liar, and there wasn't anything to be done about it. So I rang Tennessee one day, and Tennessee's friend Frank Merlo answered it, and I was all set to do a Truman riff. And he said, well, it's Tennessee again? This is Truman. And Frank Merlo thought it was Truman and began to denounce Tennessee with whom he was living. And I stopped him. I said, look, it's Gore. Well, Frank Merlo was hysterical over that for fear that I would repeat, what he had said, which I would not have done, and one does not do. But, and now that voice. Now I'm to the second Capote. I ran into Rupert Everett, the actor, the other day, and he said, well, I'm playing you, in this second Capote. I said, really? Because I don't think I spoke that much to him if I could help it. Just my work on the phone occasionally.